Welcome here at Lighting World yet again. I'm back from vacation and we are returning back with some more content. And today we're gonna have portfolio review, which I do apologize that have been extended a few times due to traveling and cancellations and stuff like that. It's all on me. But we're back now, and we'll try and review four portfolios at the very least. If we have more time, we'll do a bit more. Jeremy does have a mentorship sessions later, so he does have to leave within a certain time limit. If
I
I'm not
apologize.
tired, if I'm not tired, I'll probably keep going a little bit, but we'll probably schedule another session another time to try, kind of keep the flow going a little bit, at least until we're finished with all the submissions. So, we are doing Nectaria, Montana, and Nehal, and Jan first, and then we'll just see what we do. I picked Nectaria Montana first because Jeremy is here, and they were a bit 3D oriented, so I thought it was a good idea to get them out of the way, and while we have him here as well as that's his specialty, and then moving forward we'll do a couple of more. Some of you are actually in the VIP Discord, which is also why I put you a second, because we might do something more specific for some of you since you're on the VIP Discord. So that's also another reason for that. And as we continue and people stop by, often the people just keep posting more. And last time it took me 3 hours, so we're not going to do that this time around. We're going to keep it to 1 hour. All right. So, do you want to start, Jeremy, with the first one?
Sure. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think everything is good.
I can just present and then share.
Yeah,
Oh man,
exactly.
can I share screen?
Yeah, of course you can.
I'm just like, every time I do this, I'm like, should I share the window? There we go.
Would I?
Share the.
What
There we
happens if
go.
I do the wrong thing? There we go.
You see this all right?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll do this.
Okay. Yes. So the first one here, I wanted to just kind of like highlight the initial layout. So this is more of a personal preference, and I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but I usually like the ArtStation link to just be the initial profile. I think just because I'm so used to the layout, it like I don't have to think about what I'm looking at, even though I mean it's just the same thing but with larger thumbnails, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so I think whenever you link your ArtStation out, I'm not, at least for me, I like this look, just because it's familiar. But yeah, let's look at this this portfolio. So I'm gonna do just some quick digging to see what's here. So we've got a name. We see 3D artist, London, United Kingdom. If I go into the about, I won't reveal your email. Don't worry. Having some type of summary would be super nice, and having like any details that you can expand on for your skills and software would be really good. If you do have a pro account, make sure to use your blog just to show your work in progress, because I think that's a good location for work in progress. But yeah, so we've got 3 pieces here. This is 3D artist. We see a material, which I think is totally fine. But let's start with this environment. So this one's very much like it says V-Ray, right? So it's not necessarily real time, but it shows your interests and the quality that you're kind of aiming for. I don't usually have a very particular like positive or negative when it comes to V-Ray, other than I'm a big fan of real time. So if you were able to achieve this look in Unreal, that'd be super nice. But Amit, do you have anything to say on this specific scene?
I was trying to set up the other one. I think the tangents, right? When you take a screenshot, like with the carpet and the table kind of cutting out, especially on the bottom as well, I noticed. Yeah, it's very obvious, isn't it? I think things like that would be a good thing to kind of be aware that you're kind of framing things correctly. In terms of the quality of the textures, I think the wood on the top seems a lot lower quality and not as detailed as the rest of the environment. So I would probably consider looking into that as well. In terms of lighting, I mean, that's a different topic altogether. Definitely we could have in the night scene, you could definitely punch the intensity of the lights a bit more higher, so they are brighter because it's nighttime. So you should be able to be comfortable, make them a bit brighter. Uh, but it's also difficult to see logically, architecturally wise, why the lights are inside on the nighttime. You can see the light sources
Mm,
at the top. They would generally be on the wood probably as part of the architectural design. And because right now when you have the spotlight, it's getting blocked, so you're not really utilizing the lighting design, which would be a note to keep in mind when you do this kind of um, lighting placement, because a lot of people are just placing the light and they're not necessarily thinking about architectural design. So studying architectural design, how architecture do the lighting setup, I think is probably a very good idea when it comes to knowing what to do. um, Other than that, I do like the last picture quite a bit. I think it's
yeah.
it's nice. It's nicely lit. It's good framing. The only thing is, do I look left or do I look right? So when you have even objects that's symmetrical in placement and rule of third, the I go left, I go right, I go left, I go right. I think arguably you could argue you're gonna look right because there's a contrast between black and white. Um, but that's where I would probably dim the left side a little bit on purpose because I want people to look more on the right side. So I
It's
would dim the
pretty
light.
easy to, yeah. I was just going to say it's pretty easy to balance this just by, if you were to remove this. Now this is much more prominent just by
Yeah,
removing that little
yeah, you
piece on
could.
the top.
Yeah, definitely you can remove an asset if you want to do that. You could do quite a few things, I think. And I'm sending it back to you while I look for the stream link.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you're highlighting the tangents, and there's a lot of like really straight edges. Usually, when I'm looking at portfolios, like we call these laser lines. So you're watching out for laser lines so that they're um, resolved in a way where they don't feel digital or like generated. Getting rid of laser lines will immediately start to make a scene feel much more natural and real, or like a photography or like a photo. When you look at let's say like this laser line here, knowing that this is a softer material that people often sit on, like these edges can quickly start to kind of bend in areas where people often sit. The way the pillows are resting on the couch and trying to make those look much more relaxed is something that sticks out as well. I think I want to say that the wood on the ceiling feels a little dark, but maybe it's just because it's nighttime. I don't like, because in the lit scene it feels pretty good, but maybe that's also a little dark. I don't know if that's like an albedo offset. Maybe Amit will comment on that, but yeah. And then the wall here, I was going to say that the normal map that you have on there, or if it's V-Ray and this is a bump map, feels like it's tiling a little too low. So it feels like the surface is much like more chunky than it's supposed to be, or like the frequency of the wall is supposed to be higher frequency and it's not. Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to say on this specific?
I mean, there's always more to say, but that's I'm trying to limit a little bit for time sake. But I can just quickly show the difference between intensity and exposure on my screen very quickly for the nighttime, because it's the easiest one to visually explain very quickly. So I'm just going to share my screen as well, and hopefully I won't share anything that's not supposed to be shared. Okay, you can see my screen now as well, I believe.
Yes.
All right. So basically, when I'm saying increased intensity is understanding that this looks very dim for nighttime. If you just push it, you can see it's still dark outside, but it looks brighter inside, which gives a very nice contrast. There are other things I would pay attention to, which is more of which I'm not going to fix to show you, but I do want to point out it does raise some questions for me, which is basically I do notice this huge shadow over here. It's noticeable to me, and it doesn't necessarily serve any good purpose. So when you're constructing your images, I think it's a good idea to manipulate the shadows if need to be. There is light. What's this called again? Light. There's a setting that allows you to choose an object and not cast shadow for certain light type inside Unreal or even Unity. It's called light layers. And the same goes for this one. This is really sharp, but I don't necessarily see where the light's coming from that's doing that. Even though I can see the direction is this way. So having some kind of thought process for it, I think is a very good idea. I would also consider turning this off and having a shot where it's bright outside, so there's night lighting outside and it's really dim. In that case, I would have gone maybe darker here instead, and I would have probably gone brighter outside instead to kind of have different style of lighting and showing that you can do all kinds of things. But I understand the purpose is interiors. For that reason, you do want to crank up your interior lighting to see a bit more, and then there's things to discuss depending on what you like and what you want. Do you want this one to be there on? How strong do you want it to be? For shots like this as well, again, this is more composition because we want to talk about composition. Is when you have this kind of lighting, you can see this object is getting lost a bit in the process. It's kind of on top of black, and then it's black, and then it's on top of in front of a black door, and it kind of loses shapes and form. So I would purposely, just for the sake of having a clean screenshot, I would have moved this probably over there, for example, if I need to do just some ideas to think about when you do this kind of construction of scene setup and construction of composition. So that's kind of my quick feedback on that.
Nice. All right, we're back on my. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think the only other thing I would comment on is maybe like the sterileness of the lighting itself. Like it feels very, and I guess that's the reality of like non-natural lighting. Maybe bringing in, I don't know if it would be moonlighting to kind of light the environment in the back that's just outside, just to get some type of cooler color, so that you're at least balancing it out a little bit. Yeah, I wanted to, because we don't have too much time per portfolio, so I wanted to kind of go
You
through.
have about 2 minutes more on this one.
Oh, nice. Okay, so quick thing on this material. So these materials are pretty cool. What I would say about the materials themselves is it's more about the presentation. Usually it's great that you have some type of gradient or something in the back. You don't want it to be a flat color. The other thing is usually you want the material to be the center stage. So pushing the background darker and giving your material some type of like 2-point lighting or even 3-point lighting. So that way you can see how the lighting affects the surface and how the material responds to the lights themselves, whether it be like the way the roughness is, or just even how the height map is displacing the surface. Yeah, it's just, you're going to see more of your material that way, and it'll show itself off much better outside of just the silhouette changes. You don't get much information in here. And then if we go into this scene, I won't click on this just for time's sake, but looking at actually, I will do this and I'll just make sure it's, yeah, you never know what's, so it's good that you have the camera moving like right from the get-go. The fire, the fire sticks out to me for this shot. That shot's really fast too. But yeah, I'm not an effects artist, but the fire feels strange. I think it's the way that it's cut out, and it's not additive in its brightness. I don't know, you know what I mean, Amit? It's like it's a picture of fire versus like popping.
Yeah, it's basically the intensity, the emissiveness is not high enough for the fire, although it is daytime. But still, you can see the difference in the background there. It looks a bit more brighter because it's in the dark at the back there. The fire to the right side, so that's kind of what you're talking about, right? It's not oomph enough.
Yeah, the other thing you'll see too is like when the fire is, or when you have your depth of field kicked on, the material, there's a setting that you can go into the material of that fire, and actually tell it to render before the depth of field, since it's a post-process effect that's happening for the DOF, and that'll actually get the fire to blur out before or have the fire render before the blur. Yeah, let me see if there's anything else I can grab from this. It's, again, the materials are very, like, the modeling is pretty good, and it's more about like pushing your materials. The backdrop, you have a hard time like seeing the structure because the exposure of the backdrop and the building are very similar. So there's definitely room for growth or quality improvements if you just separate the background from the building itself, like you have here. Like, you can see, because this is dark and this is dark, this now pops out and makes itself much more present, and comes forward in the shot. And when I was talking about like the simplification of materials and trying to like push those up, getting some more interaction other than just the stone, it needs to feel like there's dirt and sand, or like green foliage and moss and stuff kind of building up and caking in the little crevices and cracks, just to kind of show you that everything is grounded in the scene and is also interacting with the scene. Oh, this is much more, this is stronger just because the focus is very clear. I assume if the camera was panning and this is not in the, because right now it's clipping what you're trying to focus on. If the plant was moved just a little bit more to the left, it'd be stronger. And I can always appreciate these types of breakdowns. You got your, oh, this is nice that you highlighted the Quixel assets. Wow, that first shot is actually extremely strong. Let me wait for that again. Did you have anything you wanted to say on this, Amit? I feel like I'm like trying
No,
to...
it's good. No, it's good. I mean, there's always more to say, but I think it covers, the most of the things. I always have something to say about the lighting, but I guess we'll take another round. They can post it on the portfolio chat as well, on the review chat, if they want to more focus on it as well. But I think overall, a very common thing when you use volumetric light in fog, what happens is it flattens the image a lot, and it also desaturates the color a bit in Unreal. So you want to compensate for that by going into post-process and tweak a little bit of the tone mapping and various setting to get that shadows back out. You can see your images very, very bright everywhere, and the darkest spot is in the hallway. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but you can definitely make your image a lot better in this area by understanding the value of your light, what's happening with the light, and also again, as Jeremy said, that emissive on fires could probably be brighter, even though it is daylight. You just want to make it look like it's on fire. But then normally I would also ask, do you really need the fire on during the daytime? Is there something else you could do interestingly? And then things like angle of light, like you could have angled the light a bit more towards the left rather than top down, because you would have gotten some shadows from the tree on the walkway, on the stairs, and that would have made a bit more interesting story and contrast for your image, because you want to avoid having a very flat image. I was just telling Jeremy I was disappointed on my photography trip in Spain because it was a guided trip, and the guy took us everywhere during daytime when it's like 12, 1, 2. That's the worst time to do photography, and it's not the most pleasant lighting either. So those principles from photography is related to this comment here as well. You want to try and go angles, because you're the artist, you have the opportunity to have fun. To try understanding lighting is also about getting those shadows in, those color tones in, and those story on this interesting environment. And then also, you could have added something mysterious. So I would have added a fire inside or something, or a blue light or something. I would have adjusted a couple of things for sure, but definitely a very good start. And yeah, I like the God rays. It's a very good touch. So yeah, we good?
Cool. Yeah. I'm a big fan of this one just because it's so easy to see like what you're looking at. Would you like to, I think this was the last piece in here. Can you jump to the next one?
Yeah.
If we have any questions in chat, I can
Yeah, they can
can
always
get back
ask.
to you. Yeah. Okay, so the next one is Scott, and I was looking like right before the stream started. I was looking through this portfolio, and I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff in here. But yeah, did you have something you want to say, Amit?
I mean, you can go first. My first thought was, um, it's a mixed opinion about this. This is my opinion.
Mm,
Get rid of 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 3-year-old images unless it's really a good reason to talk about it during interviews or explain your progress, or if it's still good for some reason, or you really are a strong believer it should stay. I do have 2 pieces that's in my portfolio, and it's like 5 years old, but it's always is a winner when I have my interviews or I have my conversations with people, art directors, and explaining why it's there. So in your case, having a lot of things doesn't necessarily show your overall skills. I would really look at different helmets. You have quite a few helmets. Do you really need all of the helmets? Which one is the best helmet? Pick that. Which one is the best weapon? Pick that. Are you trying to do character faces? If not, get rid of that. So these are just general point
mm.
of view, and I believe Jeremy will take over from here.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say very similar. It's just like there's a lot of content to read through, and it's really about like what what do you want me to get out of your portfolio? What do you want me to get out of you as an artist? Because I see 3D artists here, so that's quite broad, right? And then when I look at the portfolio, it's a lot of armor, but not necessarily on characters. There's a few of those. There's some vehicles. There's a weapon that's a sci-fi design. There's a prison warden. There's some work in progress content in here. I would move all of that to an external blog or somewhere where you can freely post, and try and get finished content in your portfolio. Um, and this is just kind of going off of the what I'm seeing in the thumbnails. Like this thumbnail here, super strong, and I think it's just the way that the lighting is with the like how the surfaces are responding, and it just looks interesting. You want to click it, you want to see more. Whereas like I see this and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's it's very intricate chest plate armor, right? But if I click it, I don't know what else I would learn from it. So it's a little bit of like the understanding of how you push people to want to click on your content, and making sure that you're unifying your thumbnails in a way that's a common language, because at the end of the day you're kind of a brand as well, right? So uh, getting your thumbnails to look like your thumbnails, you can basically frame up stuff better. There's like logos that are clipping down here. The Lord of the Rings text is clipping there. Just formatting these to fit the square would be like a really big win. And like Emmett's saying, is like removing the stuff that doesn't really show as strong as other things. Like this helmet's crazy. I gotta click on this just because like I see the detail up here, and I'm like, why isn't this spot the thumbnail? Like just super zoomed in. Because then I'm like, whoa, I gotta see the rest of this. And then you click on it. You get us to click on it. We look at the helmet. The way that you're using ArtStation right now is you've got some buffer space on the side, and there's ways in the way that it's being presented so that the thumbnail actually, or the image actually, takes up the entire frame. And maybe you're not doing that because you don't want us to have to scroll to see the whole helmet. There's ways around that. Like you can take these two posts, put them next to each other as one image, and then have one of them huge, like right below it, and then we can scroll and really admire all the details that you're pushing. When I look at, let's see here, when I'm looking at that helmet, for example, and all of these other helmets and kind of metal works, if you want to say it like that, the Genghis Khan helmet is actually quite interesting just because it's got different material types going on in it. If you could get some separation on your surfaces, that would really help, just with pushing the quality. This one's actually intriguing, and I'm trying to figure out, maybe it's because of the depth of field in the back. Like the focus is definitely on this weapon. And okay, so this is 2 years old, so that there is some like stuff that you can remove to like really unify your portfolio. But what I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing UVs and I'm not seeing wireframes to see like how, like what is there anything that's baked down versus like just a render. This might all just be high res, no? Yeah, this one's 5 years old. Man, it's really, it is really impressive. It's just like, I want to see it on a character, you know? I want to see, or I want to see it like baked down. This looks like it's high res because the profile here. Yeah, it's just ZBrush and Keyshot. I'd be curious to see a workflow on how you're using like height maps or textures in order to help you get most of the information that's here. Did you want to jump in on anything, Amit?
No, I think it's pretty good. I think generally speaking, we want to try and limit the amount of work, show the best work. Thumbnails, probably spend some time making sure it's really nicely presented in some of the thumbnails, such as the weapons. And also, again, when you take screenshots like that, make sure there's no cutoff point, and just get some honest feedback. Get some feedback from, well, I guess us in this case, but to get some more feedback in terms of what you should keep and what are you trying to specialize in the future. And such as your helmets have cutout points, some of your weapons have cutout points, like the tails not added in the images, the wings not added. So we're talking about a lot of compositional understanding and compositional knowledge. I think that's kind of vital to kind of talk about and kind of just point out, to make sure that it does matter when we look at it. And if we're recruiting and we're looking at your understanding, generally speaking, because quite often 3D artists, at least the people I work with, they are responsible of putting things together as well. So you have to understand how composition work, how color work, does it make sense to have all of these things? And in a smaller studio you might be responsible for more, so you definitely want to show you can understand it. So that's my overall thought when it comes to the portfolio, basically.
Oh, some of these are really nice. Like these are really cool. Seeing this, the thing is I don't know if you notice I'm jumping around because I don't really know where to go. So I'm just kind of clicking through like it's an actual gallery. And maybe I'll stumble across something. If I hadn't clicked on this one, I wouldn't have seen this helmet, for example. And I actually think this one's really cool. Kind of makes me wonder if like there's just the need to be presenting what is considered to you the stronger pieces up front. See, these are the same helmets but rendered in Unreal. So this might be, oh man, that's cool. This might be something where you want to like be focusing on your material definition, because now you're in Unreal and you're really trying to sell those surface types. And the fact that this is down here and this one's here, those should almost be combined and like unifying your content so that it's more of a presentation of like, here's the final like pieces that are considered real time. And then as you go down, you see the high polys, you see all the work that went into it. There's a lot of like really nice sculpting going on here, and or like alpha control, and seeing even just really short like ArtStation videos in here or YouTube videos of you working on that like high speed would be really cool to see, because it really shows the skills that you have. And what I'm seeing right now is this sculpting skill is crazy. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think it's good. We probably, I mean, there's always more to add, but I'm trying to limit the feedback this time to 15 minutes, specifically to respect your time as well. So I think it's good. But again, feel free to post feel free to post on Dynasty Discord, Lighting Board Discord for further emphasis and feedback. You're always welcome to do that as well. Yeah.
Nice. All right. This one might be more if you want to start on this one. And I don't know. Can we click on this for YouTube? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I know on Twitch I would avoid.
It's just a character without the head and blood on it. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Where do you want to control, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure. I can do that. Um,
It's just blood, bro. There's just no head, bro.
it's all right, bro. It's baby stuff. Uh, so while Jeremy was talking, I try and stay ahead and look at some of the work to kind of think. Um, what I like with these versions is you're trying to show that you can do different time of different mood or different style, so to speak. Now, I try doing something similar, and what I like to pay focus on is, which is where if you're here actually right now, I think it's a good idea for you to type very quickly if you used references and also the intention behind it. Because you're going a bit stylized, I imagine, but even when you go stylized, there's a certain respect to how nature works. So this particular image, to me, um, there's a couple of creative skies and everything, but when you have trees and lake, and then you have some creative skies going on, there is a disconnect between our mind trying to make sense of it from a realistic point of view, and then there's the creativity point of view. So I think it looks good. You know, you have a nice fill light, you have a nice lighting. Overall, you're trying to have interesting sky. Um, but I would urge you to think a little bit about, does it make sense and does it serve the purpose? Because what we want to avoid is showing that we're just putting a skybox and then moving the light a little bit and kind of showing that we can do something. It has to be some more intention. I would have considered adding more details in the scene just to emphasize the story for your lighting. So normally the sky is the brightest first of all. So this is pretty dark regardless of the hemisphere and how sky work and how fog works, which is a different topic altogether. So that's the first thing I react on when I notice that, just to give you a reason and explanation of why I'm looking specific on this one. Then there's just generally the stretching of your sky. You know, these are certain things you want to keep in mind. You can see it happening in some of your pieces. Generally, there's a certain stretch because that's what happened when you use certain stylized SGRI or, you know, that's custom made. In this case, I'm guessing you made them yourself. I'm gonna guess. Um, Again, fog, it flattens the image quite a bit. You're losing the background quite a bit and the sky a bit. Um, what's the idea behind it is my question. What are you trying to show? Because why is this a question that I'm asking? I'm asking the question because when I look at this, I think a green filter, right? So you could have taken, by the looks of it, you could have taken this image and just add a green filter. And I would like you to tell me if you did or did not do it, because you can tell by the highlight it's the same sky, so to speak, behind there, and there's a green filter. So thinking about the purpose and the reason behind it is quite important when you do these things. Um, Again, same thing. I like what's happening with the trees. I like what's happening with
Mm.
the ice. I like what's happening with the reflection. I think the challenge, and this is very important when you do lighting, um, the sky is the biggest impact of how things look. Like this one is pretty cool. I mean, I don't have much of a problem with this kind of stuff, even though I'm going to assume that's where the light is. You know, maybe you could have done more left side. Maybe there's something else you could have done in terms of design. This one is, again, is pretty decent, it's pretty cool. Um, this compositionally, I would do differently in terms of the fireflies. I would have maybe placed them a bit more strategically. Right now, it just feels there's a lot going on in the front. I would have maybe done one or two in front to show what it is, and then I would have placed it around the trees in the background because that's where they live. That's
Yeah, really
where
small.
they're
Yeah.
going, right? So these are kind of important things to learn, even as a lighting artist, is showing your ability to do that. And just quickly, stretching of the sky. great. This isn't bad at all. Here I probably would added a little bit of God rays into it, even using Photoshop. I can see you using DaVinci Resolve and Photoshop to do the stuff, so a bit emphasized there. What's interesting here though is that's the sky, but your light's hitting the trees on the left, not necessarily on the bottom part. So that's details to pay attention when someone's looking at your image. Very stylized guy, stretching, and there's a desaturation and blur going on. Um, Not a big deal. I like
How
this guy.
how would you control that? Like
Which
if you're doing outside, and are you just having to move the directional light around to try and get the top like center highlight?
for this one,
Yeah.
yeah. So assuming he again, it depends on his setup. I would
Mm.
because this is a sky box, so you would have placed the direction of the sky to actually be quite diffused. So the second thing is you can see the direction of the shadows. If I really want to be picky,
Yeah, they're quite
um,
low,
that wouldn't
really long.
happen because that's not where the light is pretty far up and it's not actually coming through, so it will be more it will stop around here and it will be more diffused and it wouldn't be as sharp.
Mm.
So this is again a very detailed feedback in this case, but I don't want to spend too much time in one image and say too much. But there's a lot of work we could do. I like the sky. There's nothing wrong with this sky. It's just it has more potential in terms of understanding how light works, how the sky works, how it hits the trees, the type of shadow you get when there's this kind of things, right? You could also use spotlight and then double the volumetric effect on the spotlight if depending on your skill level and depending on what you're doing, right? So you could do that too. You could go into 3D Studio Max, Maya, Blender. You could make those planes, and you can have an alpha based god ray with a little emissive, and you could strategically place them as well because it's in the distance. We do that a lot as well. So there's a lot of options to do these kind of effects for these kind of things. Yeah, and I mean this one is pretty nice. Here I would probably add more orange light on the left side to emphasize the fact that there's some orange light coming on the left side. I like this one. Reminds me of I really like this one because it has a nice distance, it has a nice fog, and it reminds me of winter is coming in Game of Thrones quite a bit. So I would have used that to your advantage. Maybe add someone coming out of the fog and the trees just to build each piece a bit more uniquely in the future. Right, so you've done the first draft, so pick the best ones and then push them even further to show that you have the ability. Um, Again, it's a bright sky. So
There's a lot of
yeah,
these, right?
yeah,
I I want to say that you could probably cut half of them, and
yeah.
the portfolio will be stronger for it.
Yes, I mean I could probably easily do a cutout on what I would have removed. This one is pretty decent, but I would have added the orange part. I would have rotated it over there, and then I would have used DaVinci to grade it further to get that feeling that's coming from here, which is what it looks like. Again, pretty good, pretty dark, but still pretty decent. Probably could do more with the sky. Blood Moon, all right. Maybe add a werewolf eating something. I don't know. There's stuff to do.
Mm.
Not sure about this one, but that has more to do with color choice and the color combination and the fact there's night, there's color in the sky, and realism, basically, even if it's stylized. Um, Again, I would change because you're using Photoshop and using DaVinci. There's no reason for you to add a proper moon if you wanted to use a moon and kind of adjust it accordingly to get that kind of effect. There's more I could go on, but how about you take over, Jeremy, a little bit as well?
I mean, so with those scenes, I don't want to stick on those scenes for too long, but I did want to just say that, like, compositionally, I know that you're only focusing on the lighting aspect of this, but I think if this were to come around and there were trees up close, you get much more parallax, and then you can really play around with how the light kind of casts on, especially the trees that are up close. And I don't know what the quality of the trees are, so I don't know how close you can actually get to them before they start to break down. But yeah, if there was, even if this side was just like the distance between the camera and the trees on the right was halved, that would do a lot for just getting that depth and kind of making for a really interesting composition. But yeah, this is really interesting. I think I saw this on the Discord, maybe like on the Empire Discord, maybe yesterday or the day before. But it's really interesting. I think you could probably just cut this in half, and it could be like one long video of like the shots that are important. I clicked on this, dude. That's gnarly. I was like, oh boy, oh wow. It surprises you too, because you're just looking at this train and everything's fine. The subway train, everything's good, and then hello, oh god, and then all of this stuff, which is, so when I see the writing, that writing was done after the murder, or it was done before the murder, based on the order of which you see blood versus writing, and the writing is not affecting the blood. So there's like, this is a very nitpicky thing, but I get really like picky about this type of stuff. Like I'd find ways to get like a smudged blood decal to place just even in a few spots to show the interaction between the two elements, and how they interact with each other. But I do see the Wes Anderson vibes that you're portraying here. The color palette with the green and the orange, and a little bit of that. I mean, I guess this is the same orange, but it's because of the lighting, it's becoming a bit more red. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is relighting. This is impressive. I don't know where you got the body, if it's like from a kit or assets from Sketchfab. So Dead Body from nice, Resident Evil. Okay, yeah. And you're linking everything too, which is really good. Yeah, I don't have too much to add on this one. It's definitely more of a lighting steady, but the body situation you got going on here is pretty good. It's pretty well done. The splattering that's happening right in the midpoint here makes me think that the head actually exploded there. So if that's not the case, or that's not what you want to tell, then I would have that splatter be wider and up higher. Man, that is a freaking it's gnarly, bro. Did you want to comment on anything in there? I'm just gonna like hop around a little bit.
I mean, personally, I would have just probably desaturated, even though he probably has an intention behind it. I would probably, I'll share my screen very quickly. I would have, because this is how it looks like in your portfolio, this shot here. I would have done this to kind of emphasize it a bit more, clarify a little bit, and make it a bit more focal. So you go from something that's very flat and everything is kind of even, and I would have desaturated a little bit just to put some more focus. So what I've done here, I've kept the saturation. Again, I'm doing this because I know you're using Photoshop and DaVinci to present your work, which means you can do this. And I would have made sure that this is really the key thing. And just to show, again, it's a very subtle difference, but it makes it a bit more dramatic. It makes it a bit more like there's a dead body. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of color, but the thing is, you have red blood and then you have warm color around it. It starts being a bit, unless you're very experienced, as your reference, probably you want to make sure that it's a more clear balance of saturation and intensity. So that's really what I would have done. So this looks more gamey, and this more looks that something's not really well lit, even though you can see very much the reflection and everything is supposed to be bright. So I would definitely push it so it's something did happen. But that's just what I would have done personally, really. So that's about it.
I wonder if you turn off all the lights except for the ones near the body, just to get, because then you can keep the saturation, but you really control, like, you lose the Wes Anderson vibes, I think, by that. But
yeah, probably. But that's where creativity and decision making comes in. That's Wes Anderson. What are you trying to do? Are you really trying to copy? And if you're is it a good copy? Is it a good inspiration? Does it work for your scene? I think those are kind of very important. You could keep the saturation, but then I would consider picking another color than orange for
Mm.
to frame the red a bit more specifically. So the red and the orange is matching, nothing wrong with it. But personally, I would try and look for another color to kind of balance the shot a little bit and make it less. So it's not about the saturation, more as it's the orange makes me personally feel a bit cozy.
You don't like getting cozy where there's a body present?
But also it's lighting bots color, so it's using orange and it's making it bloody. But this again is a creative choice, so it is nothing wrong with it. If you wanted to keep it, that's perfectly fine, but I would definitely still make it brighter. Most of the pattern I see with people is they're not making things bright enough. So if anything, keep doing the, if it's Wes Anderson type of reference, fine enough, but keep it bright. You know, you don't want it to be this dark thing. You want to make sure it's visible what's going on, because that's your job. Your job is to make sure you understand lighting, which is contrast and visibility, basically. So yeah, you ready for the next one, Jeremy?
Yeah,
I'm about to add your screen.
sure.
Cool.
So this portfolio is at least when I look at the thumbnails, is extremely strong. Like compositionally, they're really interesting. When you look at the colors, they're all pretty unified in their saturation and their value, and it's just very balanced. And then all of the thumbnail, like all the Unreal Engine logo, everything is just kind of, it's very clean. So everything feels good just looking. And I actually like just this dot grid at the top here. This is a lighting intern at Insomniac. Nice. Hello, Rain. Rain's in chat. Yeah. I mean, this is pretty cool. So this rework of my first relighting experimentation with Lumen and some resolve grading I've learned. Environment chosen reminds me of it. So this is from a marketplace. So I mean, this is pretty common, right? With lighting portfolios, is to do a lot of relighting and color grading to try and portray certain moods.
Yeah, we're lazy.
And
What can I
vibes.
say? Yeah, we're lazy. What can
I'm
I
not
say?
saying you're lazy, man. Come on.
We don't want to sit there and model stuff. Yeah, it's quite common, but eventually, what you want to do, especially if you're which is you're kind of trying to do anyway, is you want to make sure that you keep doing what I think you're doing, which is you're adding your own touch to the environment, right? Um, so you want to add some other characters, you want to keep adding your own touch and story to the environment, so you don't want to like the original one because everyone is doing it. And in your case, because you're already a lighting intern, your next work I would recommend doing camera movement, so a little bit of camera movement to your work a bit more would go a long way, I think, as well. The piece that the first one Jeremy showed is probably too contrasty. Yeah, it's a bit too much contrasty for my taste, and yeah, it's difficult to know the focal point. Is it the cage or the thing on top, or is it the character? But I mean, it's 10 months ago, so I think you probably improved a bit since then.
The rays are quite strong, right? So it's like as it goes down, maybe it's diffusing more, and the character becomes much more of the prominent. I mean, I guess you could just add a light here. But
yeah, so
fog, right?
Yes, you definitely want to make it more diffused. Based on the fact that architecture and it's probably Windows doing it, which would diffuse it, but also they look vertical, those rays, right? So you're not really getting too much depth of the rays. So normally what I like doing and cheating is I would put light blockers on top, so I get like a little bit in front, a little bit in the back, so I can see the depth of the god rays and the distance. Otherwise it looks too much 2D and we're working in a 3D space, right? which is funny because you can see the things hanging, but you can see the guard rays at the back. Not necessarily. There's a bit of a
Yeah, like
visual
this is darker
conflict
here.
going on. Yeah. So you can slide something in the atmospheric fog, and you can have like the brightest spot on top, and then it kind of dims down and disappears as it gets closer. The fog, that is, you will still get the light at the bottom of the floor. But overall, this is obviously his first piece that he kept online, so that's all good and ready.
Yeah, I want to see this most recent one. So this one's 9 months ago. I'm assuming it's the most recent. Some people change the order of their stuff, so you never know. This compositionally is really interesting. Just having this edge, you don't see that very often. What were you gonna say on it? I felt it.
And I think he used a reference for this, or
Yeah.
let's check his detailed tutorial blog.
This one.
Right.
Oh yeah.
He has a blog on the right side. Inspiration. Okay, yeah. So yeah, but here's the thing: when you give us when you give us references, it's so much easier to critique you.
Yeah, because you can see where the intentions were and where things were coming from. Yeah, oh, it's nice. There's some setup stuff in here as well.
Yeah, so he has number 3 on his reference is a dramatic moonlight, which I think he shows actually at the bottom of the.
You're talking about
Yeah, I think he shows it on the
this one.
on his actual page as well at the bottom somewhere. Yeah, okay, I see what he's doing. Okay.
Yeah, because you can see the red. A lot of inspiration came from the dramatic moonlit night with the red. It's pretty cool seeing the red. You don't see that too often. It like reminds me of way back in the day, Diablo.
I know lighting artist. He always used red on purpose as his trademark. So everything he does, there's always a red light somewhere in his image. He really loved that. Compared to your references, I would say so when you do references and you look at the general mood of things, one challenge we all have is your reference. For example, the one if you scroll down, actually, Jeremy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you will see his
here we go.
comparison. Yeah, these two. So on the left side, you see it's vertical, and yours is horizontal. Isn't that the correct terms? Is up down reference?
Yeah, this is vertical, and this is more horizontal. Yeah,
that impacts your lighting a lot. And the layout. So on the left, the reference, you can clearly see the building is the focal point, even though there's a super bright moon at the back, and you can see it hits around the building quite nicely, and it wraps it around a bit. But on yours, you can see it covers half of the moon, and then it goes, and there's another building in front, and then there's this balcony-shaped thing in front. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying when you do your references, try and also mimic the shape that you're lighting, right? It's kind of dissimilar. This is a very stupid example, but it's the best one I can do without so when you light different people with different skin color, you're going to change the lighting even if it's the same height, the materials and everything, because darker skin is a completely different lighting approach than someone who is at what's the term for I guess white or whatever, or what's the other term for it?
Caucasian.
Caucasian, yeah. So it's the same thought process. So if you have to do with different skin color, you do have to consider with different shape, because it's a completely different shape. And then you have to look at the reference and go, okay, what is the reference trying to do, and what am I trying to highlight, right? Other than that, it's a good piece for sure. But we're talking about how do you improve it further, right?
Yeah, I wonder if turning up the ambient to just really expose these surfaces would get it closer to this. I don't know if that would start to flatten the image out. At some point, it would.
I think again, this is just color, because I think you said you were grading it. The red in your is not as red and bright as the one on the left side. You have more pinkish color on your red. The one on the left has very clear highlight, where the red is, and it's pretty red. So that's like in terms of color, what I would do. The one on the left side is not as dark blue, so your sky is more dark blue. So that's
Mm,
where I would desaturate a little bit. Overall, I mean, it's pretty good piece, even though it's 9 months ago. Your second piece, same thing. The left reference has more green cyan tint to it. Yours have less of it, so I would desaturate and I would add that more in the sky. Um, you're using the same environment but different reference. It's very interesting. I would imagine you're trying to mimic the overall mood and the
mm.
sky. Obviously, I think you've done a good job in trying to get the sky, somewhere interesting. Um,
The temperature, the clock face. I think that's a clock face, right?
yeah, that's the
Like
clock
getting
face.
that around here would be, I think, would be a nice touch for like drawing that same color.
Yeah, or I would have added it on the top one. There's the two towers there. I would have just
I just put a
yeah, found the clock and added it just to lead the eye a bit. I think my
mm,
biggest challenge is um my biggest challenge is probably my biggest challenge. I like the framing of this balcony fence, but at the same time, it it pushes your images. There's a lot of things going on with your image. There's the balcony, and then there's the trees in front of your buildings and on the right side, and it kind of, I understand what you're trying to do, but I think you could do the same without having too much of those framing attempt and different leading lines, because your leading line is going to the right, your trees are going to the left, the other tree is going to the left, and your building is going to the left, and the top of your buildings is going up. So there is somewhere down there you could probably experiment with and adjust in your pieces, just to respect your reference a little bit more and to clean up your image a little bit. But again, I think it's pretty good what you've done so far. The third piece with the orange, I think you've done a good job. I think
yeah,
it's,
that one's captured quite well.
yeah, I don't have much except that there's a very strong highlight on the edges of your building. So you want to reduce the range maybe, or some way desaturate or tone map it down a little bit. The fire on the bottom is not identical to the one on the left. So again, is you don't have to do it, but I'm just pointing it out that I can see the left one is, yellowish. Yours is flamey orangish. Um, and yeah, overall, I think it's good.
I
Uh,
mean, I would play with the framing, like because
yeah,
this is more tall. Like just do this.
yeah, that's what I mean with the
Yeah,
references. You don't want to keep the sit. It's just the same feedback on the other person as well. In theory, a lot of people that have the same composition and the same framing when your reference is different. And when you do lighting, um, I cannot emphasize enough the this the aspect ratio, the composition, what's in the image pay a lot of impact to your lighting. So when you have the same environment and you have very different references, you should at least be able to understand and separate what's going on with the differences in images and do the necessary changes to really push your pieces a lot more, right? Because you have a foreground element, you have a midground element, which is what I think is happening with your fence, and then there's a tree, and there's a tree, and then there's a building, and then there's the towers, and then actually just now I noticed there's another thing all the way at the back.
yeah. This here.
Yeah. um so very good work, but definitely think we could work on the composition and placement of things to really push the frame. I'm just gonna scroll up and look at the building a bit. So it looks like it's squared and it has the corner, which is blocked by the tree, and
Yeah,
I see there's
this should almost be dark and like almost off frame,
yeah.
just to.
So
Mm,
yeah, you could definitely make the foreground a bit darker, similar to your first piece, which is again, if the more I'm gonna look at it, the more I'm probably gonna spot things. Because like on your first piece, you can see the grass is bright, but your fence is not. On the right side, you can see this light there, and you know, uh, you do want to take responsibility for it when you're doing portfolio pieces generally. Um, yeah, I mean, there's always more to do,
This
like
one's
you
pretty
said.
balanced.
I
I
think,
quite like this one.
yeah, I mean, he has other pieces with the statues in front and which is further up, which I think is where he has different angles as well.
This one's super cool. I don't know. It maybe because the sky is so bright, you want the edges on stuff that's being lit by it to be brighter.
Yeah, but the sky is pretty, it fits a bit, and I think, yeah, I mean, there's always something to comment, but overall, I think you're doing a good job.
Yes.
Don't take what I'm saying and going that it's not good. Of course, it's very good what you're doing, but there's definitely a challenge for all of us when it comes to composition. Where do you put the tree? Can I remove the tree? Will that be cleaner image? Is the tree in the way of the image? Is it helping the composition and framing? um
Yeah, maybe it just needs a few less leaves or something. Like just those small tweaks and adjustments to try and get it
Well,
to
here's the
meld.
thing. He has the balcony, then he has trees, and then he has the building. The thing is, his building
Uh,
is already doing a lot of the framing, but he's also cutting off a lot of his lighting that's at the lower level,
mhm.
with the torches and everything. So I would probably have removed the fence thing, and I would have moved the two trees on the left side probably closer, creating some depth so I could see the actual building a bit more. But again, this is preference, and composition is a different topic altogether. Is art fundamentals. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I put it in Photoshop and DaVinci, I'm sure I could start tweaking it a bit more. But overall, it's you're doing a good job with the skies as well. It's just matching it a little bit compositionally speaking. uh, like you have the second image with the red lights, it's foggy, it's bright on the ground on that red light there, so it's just being able to visualize it a bit cleaner as well. But overall, I mean, we can't argue that it's not bad what you're doing at all.
No, it's just highlighting things to push it further.
Yeah, and it's just very small things that is up for discussion, right? That's what art
Yeah.
direction is. It's like you have statues, and they're hitting the red light is hitting the statues in some of your images, but the light is quite far away, and it's not lighting anything else around. So where's that red light? Is it a reflection? But that wouldn't necessarily happen. So it's just motivated lighting on the statue is questionable for me personally, and there are ways to work around it, of course. So it's just things like that. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, this is a really strong portfolio though.
yeah, it's definitely a good example of um, not having too much work in
Mm.
your channel, and kind of emphasizing, stuff that you is yours, and I think that's very good. And I'm just gonna share Discord channel for
Yeah.
future. Discord for future. As I told you, more people are joining and they want to submit as well. But you guys just join and find the portfolio review channel, and we'll add you to the list. Do you want to stop here, or do you want to do some more?
I need to jump, I think.
Cool. We have managed to schedule this pretty well this time around.
Yeah.
So people like Arthur and Light, just join the Discord. And also, do you want to post your Discord as well?
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Join both Discord. Especially if you do a lot of 3D, I would also definitely join Dynasty, because I don't spend too much time on the 3D modeling and testing side. That's where Dynasty and Jeremy come in. That I'm not saying
yeah.
I'm not saying I don't know how to do it. I'm saying I'm not spending time and energy doing it because everyone else.
Oh, I just blinded everyone with your orange. There you go.
Oh my god! All right, cool. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. We appreciate everyone. We'll let you know if there's something new going on. I think we have a stream next week, don't we?
Yes.
Which we haven't
Yes,
set
we
up
do.
yet, but we have a stream next week. Game Dev Podcast. Did we decide the topic or no?
We did. It's very broad, though. You remember we kind of
Yeah.
listed out a handful of things.
Do you want to tell them what the topic is next week?
Oh man, I would have to look it.
Yeah,
because it's in the. Let me see if I can find it really fast. Because we're talking a lot. Learning and improving, pros and cons of mentorships and free online content. Troubleshooting problems, which I feel like needs to be that can
it's
be
on
its own
topic.
stream.
Maybe
Yeah.
that should be the stream. Maybe we'll just say that's the stream then. Okay, we just say
Maybe.
Yeah.
There's the changing studios and jobs, like that whole. I
Yeah.
can talk about when I left a company that I was really happy with, and I was crying. And
Yeah,
our director
exactly.
was like, it's okay, man. Yeah, and then things to do with no job around. What I don't know what you're referring to with that.
No job around? There's no job around? Who says there's no job around? There's no
I
job
don't know.
around.
This things to do with no job around. That's what you wrote.
Did I write that? No job around? Things to do. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So for that topic for the stream, I was thinking we could, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I don't get job. No one's hiring senior."
Mhm.
So I think for that, it's good to discuss things I did. Like I did modding, and I started my own company to get experience. That's how I dealt with it.
Right.
Right. So a lot of people are waiting, and I don't like people waiting for other people to give you opportunity. That's part of what I teach my students, and I don't know if it's the best thing, but I like to make sure people are proactive and kind of doing this stuff right. So I think that would be an interesting topic to think about. What did you do to get started? Maybe you were lucky, but not everyone is that lucky, right? A lot of people, they need to be more proactive. A lot of people are in countries that doesn't have a lot of options, they can't move. So what do you do then, right? So I think that's what I meant with what do you do when you're struggling in a country that has little job opportunity, or everyone is telling you we're not hiring any junior yet, and you're not even you're not even a senior, you just graduated. So that's a good topic. So overall, we have a stream next week, Wednesday, I believe. More or less, is it 7 or 6?
I believe it was 7.
Also, I think what does it mean with open mentorship? Don't you do mentorship already?
I do mentorships, but I open them in certain windows of time. So there's like this gated, like, because I review all the people that apply.
Right.
What I would say, so I typed the message, added the person, and then did the smiley face, and then it just sent the smiley face. So I don't like. So, but basically, pay attention in the next month. My goal is to open up a group of them, as the group that I'm with now is finishing up. So there should be a announcement in the next month or less for the next group.
Oh,
Hopefully that helps.
Means. So so you don't have like an open enrollment and then you just kick out people.
I announce, and then people sign up. I talk to every person, and then decline or let them through based on like where I think they're at and if the mentorship would help them enough.
I posted the link a few times now, and everyone else I can see are joining it. So if you could just scroll up the chat, it's been posted a few times. It should work. Or are you talking about Jeremy's Discord? I don't know.
Oh no. That might be the case. Hang on.
Because I see 4 or 5 people already joining our Lighting Bot Discord. But if you're talking about dynasties, have a look. I'll post it again.
You can do this. I got you. I'll just post the website. Which you can't click for some reason.
Well, that's good.
Oh, it's because of the...
I mean,
There'll
maybe
be a
he's
link there.
clicking. Maybe he's clicking on the YouTube because I removed a lot of my Discord links because I don't want everyone to be joining all the time from everywhere. I'm trying to limit a little bit as well the community.
But yeah, the link I just posted has a link top right that says join Discord. If you click that, you should be able to get in. If you still can't get in, that would be really weird.
Then it's on you.
Because I just clicked it and it got me there. So you should be all right.
All right. I don't want to keep you too much. He got into my Discord at least, so I think we're good there at least. I think he figured it out.
Yeah, I'm there if you want to at me.
So moving forward, we'll keep you up to date. Next stream, next Wednesday, it's not a portfolio review, it's a game dev topic that we pick once a month. So tune in for that. Next portfolio review, we'll let you know. I haven't actually talked about it yet with Jeremy, but we might do it with more people. Who knows? We're kind of flexible with what we do here, don't we?
Yeah, flexibility is nice.
Cool.
Gym.
Yoga, that's why you go for the flexibility. Thank you for your time. I'm going to talk a little bit with Jeremy before he disappears. Thank you for your time. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment so people can find the video. You know, this is hard work, and any other questions such as Isabella's question when asking for mentorship, would you advise us to have a new project idea in mind? Guess what? We'll try and cover this question on next week's podcast.
Short answer is yes.
Yes. In my mentorship, you don't need to, but you will be told to do it anyway. But we have a project for it, and we have courses that we have you do first. Because I don't know about Jeremy, I don't like repeating principles and fundamentals. I have people watch the stuff videos first, so I know you understand stuff that I know I'm repeating during these streams, for example. You know, so that's what I try and reduce my time and energy doing. Thank you guys. We're very happy for you watching. Stop being a ninja watchers. Like, subscribe. You know, be helpful. And I'll talk to Jeremy's mustache now. Thank you.